Howdy, gang, and welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff McAleer, your host here at the Gaming Gang channel. Thanks for joining me for another edition of the classic Cthulhu Case Files, where I look at adventures from the early days of Call of Cthulhu and discuss how you can utilize these vintage tales as your game table today. Now, if you caught my initial episode, you know I'm delving into the classic 1982 campaign, Shadows of Yog-Sothoth. And I discussed the first adventure in the campaign, the Hermetic Order of the Silver Twilight, who are our big bads throughout the campaign. And I will refer to them as the Silver Twilight from here on out. So today, I want to discuss Look to the Future, which is the second adventure in the campaign. Now, if you're not overly familiar with Shadows of Yog-Sothoth, the Silver Twilight is trying to awaken Great Cthulhu. So there are dire consequences if the player characters fail in this campaign. Now, in the first adventure, they're introduced to the Silver Twilight. They learn that there's some earth-shattering plan that they're up to. They don't necessarily know that it's awaking Cthulhu, but they know it's something terrible. And by the end of the adventure, the player characters have killed who they probably think is the leader of the Silver Twilights and have dealt what they think is a devastating blow to the Silver Twilight, which the reality is it's not the leader, and what they've done really doesn't matter much. Now, when I ran this campaign in 1982, my player characters burnt the lodge down that the Silver Twilight used for their meetings and ceremonies. They burnt it to the ground, which I'm going to take a guess a lot of players take that approach in this campaign. So, Look to the Future is a very short adventure. It's not even 4 pages, and a good amount of page space is taken up by a player handout and a couple of maps. The way it's written and presented in the campaign, it's kind of a throwaway adventure, at least in my opinion. And it's kind of here to provide a couple of threads to further adventures later on in the campaign. Now, myself personally, I would actually use this adventure to really drive home how high the stakes are in this campaign. So, what's going on here is, as written, the player characters receive a letter from a banker friend in New York telling them about this business organization that they've joined about a year ago and how the organization was there to unlock their potential and their creativity. And they've been going to these meetings, which actually turn into being these ceremonies where they're chanting the same thing over and over for like 45 minutes to an hour. And then when these meetings are over, their friend is suffering headaches and they're not feeling well. And they've talked to other members of this organization who are feeling the same exact way. Now, also, what's going on is that this organization is sharing the opportunity to purchase these really unusual items, these really strange objects. And the banker friend has bought one for $100, which, of course, in the 1920s, that's some serious cash. And it turns out it is a frying pan coated in Teflon, which, of course, didn't exist in the 1920s. So, what's going on behind the scenes is the Silver Twilight uses Look to the Future as a front. So, they're using it to actually drain these members' bank accounts and also drain magic points. Or in the early years of Call of Cthulhu, it would be POW. So, what this chanting is, it's actually a spell. And the uh, the leaders of Look to the Future are supposed to be all Arab and things like that, and all the minions are supposed to be Arab. I would change that. I would still keep kind of a not European, Egyptian kind of motif. Have them all wear fezzes. In fact, we even get a guest appearance by an avatar of Nyarlathotep in this adventure. But I would do away with the swarthy foreigner angle to this. But what the spell is doing, it's actually transporting one of these minions into the future, and they're coming back with just different items that some of them they're turning around and selling to these businessmen, like ballpoint pens and disposable lighters, where they're keeping things like assault rifles and computers and grenades and things along those lines. So the player characters are going to infiltrate this business organization, no doubt. And effectively, what's going to happen is they're hoping to get down into the basement, which is where they're going to find these two additional threads that they're going to follow up on for these two future adventures in the campaign. Now, there is a power plant in the basement, which is actually powered by a Shuggoth or biological material from a Shuggoth. And if it gets loose, then it's game over. Player characters are probably going to get killed. So, if you're not overly familiar with Shadows of Yog-Sothoth, this is one of those Call of Cthulhu campaigns, which really led to the reputation of Call of Cthulhu being a real meat grinder when it comes to your player characters buying the farm. Now, that's not how I would approach this adventure. So, what I would look to do is I would go back. First of all, I would seed some items in the first adventure, in the Hermetic Order of the Silver Twilight adventure, because at the end of that adventure, the player characters find some clues, and they also find this magic item, this magic box, where you can step through the box and you appear at a location that another box is. But the two boxes are joined, they're connected. You can't just walk through a box and step out of any other magic box. It has to be one of the two there. Along with that box, I would seed some items from the future, but I would cut it off about 1963. And I'll explain why in just a bit. There is a method to my madness. So when I would seed some of these items, I'm sure that players would stop and think, well, wait a second. That wasn't around in the 1920s. They'd be like, aha, I've caught the keeper screwing up. And just, I'd just be like, no, that's what I'm telling you what you find. This is what it looks like. I wouldn't tell them, oh, it's a disposable lighter. I would describe it, and then they mess around with it, and then they realize, hey, wait a second, that's like a big disposable lighter. So I would do that. Now, I would also change up how the minions are being sent into the future. I wouldn't have it be a spell. So down in the basement, we've got an armory, we've got the power plant, we've got our computer room, we've got another room where this disease that the Look to the Future organization has, which is actually a gift from Nyarlathotep. So it's not from the future, it's from Nyarlathotep. And if they inject it in someone, it's fatal. It takes about 2 weeks for them to die, but it's always fatal. I would kind of switch things around in here. So I would actually have the computer room and the power plant kind of together. And rather than have a spell that's transporting the minion into the future, I would have like a biomechanical machine. So I would actually have the the machine, which is teleporting these minions into the future. For one, I would make sure that you could have multiple people going into the future. the ceremony is actually powering that. It's providing the power to send the minions into the future. So I would kind of make sure that I arranged kind of a showdown with the minions and their assault rifles. Maybe make those like M14s. Once again, remember, cut things off early 60s and have it maybe a pitched battle going on, and the storage area where the biological material from the Shoggoth is gets broken, right? Maybe one of the minions throws a grenade and the other minions are like, no, no, jabbering on in some foreign language. And it comes to the point where the player characters have a choice of staying and fighting not only these minions who have automatic weapons, assault rifles, but also this Shoggoth or biomaterial of the Shoggoth. Or they can go through and go into the future. So most players that I know of would take that second option. And you can, of course, kind of, push them along in that direction easily enough too. So what I would do is I would have the player characters emerge in the future. But I would want to try to make sure that I don't give them any clue of exactly when they are. Now they'll be in New York, but they're in a devastated New York. So it would be a New York where Cthulhu has arisen. So maybe we've got Spawn of Cthulhu, uh, Deep Ones, have them roaming through New York. I would not try to make this a big, oh, we're in the future adventure. I would just want to kind of play that off as the player characters find themselves in this devastated New York of the future, and that the portal they came through has enough energy. You can make another like bio machine, and they are able to figure out that there's enough energy stored in it for a return trip. And once again, you could kind of sway their hands by maybe having a bunch of deep ones discover them and just have them chasing them back to the location where this portal would be, and they go back through. So essentially, what I'd be looking to do with this adventure is to drive home the point that the Silver Twilight's successful, that they've now gone to a future where the Silver Twilight has been able to awaken Cthulhu, and it took place in the 60s. Now, once again, I'm just using the 1960s to kind of mess with the minds of my players. So keep in mind, in this campaign, the Silver Twilight is trying to awaken Cthulhu in the 1920s, not in the 1960s. So I have a I have a good group of players who, so every once in a while, kind of like overthinks things, which makes things pretty interesting. So I could see my players sitting there thinking, wait a second. So we went to a time where we found this and this and this, you know, early 1960s, but the Silver Twilight is trying to awaken Cthulhu now. What's going on? It's like, why are they trying to do it now? Because the stars are right now. How how is this the 1960s? And just don't explain anything. Just just have fun with it. Watch them sit there scratching their heads. That is exactly what I would do. The computer system that they find, the computer room, I would have it where it's, 1960s. All these huge banks with these tapes rolling, have all of that. And because there's a piece of information they're supposed to find from a computer and then there's a piece of information they're supposed to find from a book. I would still allow them to do that before pushing them into the future. So I just think it would be a lot of fun, and it would make this more of a memorable adventure that actually means something than as it's presented in the campaign itself. So, just a few ideas on how I would approach Look to the Future. Now, on my next episode, I am going to discuss the Coven of Kanich. And this is a long adventure. There is a ton of stuff going on in this adventure. And I am going to talk about trimming some of these things out to make it a much more effective adventure and chapter of this campaign. That's going to be on the next episode of the classic Cthulhu Case Files. All right, that's it for this time out. If you like this video, by all means, please give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel if you haven't already. And if you do subscribe, ding that bell. It'll not only let you know when I upload original videos such as this, it'll also inform you when my live stream, the Gaming Gang Dispatch, airs Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday evenings right here on YouTube at 7 p.m. Central. And until I see you next time, here's hoping each and every one of you gets to enjoy plenty of great gaming with your gang.
Oh, hey, you're still here. That's okay. You don't have to leave just yet. In fact, why don't you subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel right here, or take a peek at the latest live stream, or even find out what YouTube recommends you check out from the channel. And of course, I'm Jeff McAleer. Thanks again for watching.